friends. It is Cortney here. Wednesday night, you are with me on Cosmically Connected with Cortney Kane Sides on the Forbidden Knowledge Network. Thank you so much for being here with me. Every Wednesday, we dive into so many awesome topics. And tonight, we're going to tackle the conversation and the topics on love, on soulmates, and twin flames. I get this question so many times, whether it be in private sessions, in my VIP inner circle, or here on the podcast. And many people want to know if they have a twin flame, if there's, if that's out there for them, if they're meant to have that, if they're going to be connecting with a soulmate in this lifetime of theirs. And I can't wait to go into those details with you tonight, my friends. So if this is your first time being here with me, guys, I'm a psychic medium, spiritual artist, spiritual advisor, and you can always find all of my work at CourtneyCaneSides.com, and that website is there in the description. You can go find me later if you're ever interested in those private sessions or joining that inner circle. And so, guys, give me those questions tonight. After we're done talking about the differences between twin flames, what that is, we're going to define it. We're going to give you examples of, what that looks like. And maybe many of you have probably had that experience in your life. And if you haven't yet, you might just find that in time. And then also, let's talk about those soulmates too, those connections. Relationships are always a hot topic. And listen, we've all been through them. We've all been through them, right? So everybody take a good deep breath in and let's call on those guides and angels. Let's feel connected tonight and let's chat about it. Okay. So big, deep breath in, big exhale out. All right, so guides and angels on our right, guides and angels on our left, guides and angels in front, and guides and angels in back to balance and harmonize our time here, leaving us in the light and allowing nothing but the highest, truest, or the best to manifest upon us now. So let me see here in the comments, guys, who of you understand twin flame energy? If you feel like you've been in a twin flame, if you've met that twin flame, very often, listen, the definition of that twin flame is an intense soul connection with someone thought to be a person's other half. And the theory about twin flames is that they are actually one soul that has been split when they have come to this earth, right? And so, many people feel very drawn to that concept of that twin flame, I see people saying, I found mine. I'm not sure. Yes, great. All of these things here. And, some others maybe are not as fascinated with that term, or they are not feeling a pull to maybe that twin flame energy. I believe that if you feel drawn to, I have this calling and this urge to find this person, typically, yes, you will find that in this lifetime. If that urge or that feeling is within you, then it's because it's in you, because you will find it outside of yourself. Okay. It's very, very interesting. Yes, many people are saying, I'm not sure. Autumn says he's the male version of me. Yes. And that's very often how that happens. And so it's a very cool thing. And so those twin flame relationships can be very healing when we're both really aware and being able to look at the mirror that we both reflect to each other, right? But when we have not gotten to that point, let's call it, emotional or spiritual level, to be able to really look within and heal that ego. I saw somebody in the comments earlier was talking about making peace with their ego. And that's a huge part of finding a healing relationship within that twin flame energy, is making sure that we are able to go within and find that healing there, so it doesn't come out as a toxicity, because those twin flame relationships can be just that. It can be very toxic. RJ says, what happens when your twin flame betrays you? RJ, what a good question. We're going to come back. So everybody stay tuned. That twin flame energy, very often when we meet that person, we have, and by the way, tonight you're going to see moments where that soulmate energy actually correlates with that twin flame energy. Okay. There can be slight differences. And so very often people get it maybe misconstrued. I'm a huge believer that we can have many people come into our life that are teaching us a number of different lessons, right? And so even those difficult relationships, like RJ is mentioning that he's been in one of them, many of us have, right? Those relationships aren't always easy, right? And so let's back up real quick though. So again, so the theory with the twin flame is that we are one soul, and that our soul has been split and come into the embodiment of two separate people. And very often, yes, it's that masculine energy and that feminine energy, right? And so when we find each other, there can be this intense bond. There can be this knowing that, this person suits me. I just got chills as I'm saying that, right? And so the twin flame will also very often mirror our energy back to us, okay? And so when your energy is of the highest good, those twin flame relationships, when we find each other, you're going to feel that intensity, that connection, and you're going to see that that relationship does feel like you found your yin and yang, right? That you guys complement each other. Very often what one lacks, the other will uphold. So those gifts and abilities that each of you have will actually complement each other. And as I say that, that's very much true for, say, a soulmate, okay? But that twin flame energy, very often, when we meet them, we haven't found that self-care and self-love for our own energy, right? We haven't necessarily fallen in such love with ourselves that we're able to really, truly value sometimes that reflection of ourselves in another. So how many people, let's think of it, guys, have you been with somebody who is so stubborn, right? So completely stubborn or defensive. And we get into these relationships with somebody who actually we're annoyed and we're triggered because they actually carry that same energy. And very often, if we're not healed, Consuela says, me, I love it. And so when we're in those relationships, let's take a breath, friends. We're triggered by their tendencies. You know why we're triggered? Well, we're typically triggered because it's actually a mirror of ourselves. That it's almost like the different issues that we've been hiding inside of ourselves that we haven't yet been able to own, right? And so we will find that these twin flames, first of all, when we have this twin flame energy, that intensity, you have it because you also remember them from a past life. So these twin flames, these soulmates of ours, will come back many, many lifetimes until we are able to truly connect to our highest self and find that love, letting that ego fall away, maybe making even peace with that ego mindset so that we can then honor the energy within that other person, which is you, right? They're literally holding a mirror because it's the energy within you that also needs to be healed. When I say that, how many of you are like, right? It's not easy. So those twin flame relationships can be very intense, right? We can fall in love quickly. Oh my gosh. And sometimes you might find that one person is actually feeling more like they're holding on to that relationship more so sometimes than the other. They call it the chaser and the runner. How many of you guys have heard that in terms of the twin flame relationships? You will hear of the chaser in the relationship and the runner in the relationship. And how many of you have witnessed that? How many of you, right? I know, I have too. It doesn't always mean, guys, my friends, if we can make peace and find love within our own energy with these relationships, that's amazing. Those partners can be there for a lifetime. I'm telling you, though, that often it's rare to have a twin flame relationship be a lifelong partner. How many of you understand that? How many of you understand that you feel like somebody in the past, a past relationship, you're like, definitely, I learned lots of lessons there. They were reflecting so much of your own energy right back to you, right? Many of us are like shaking our head. Me too, right? Yes. Mm. Cliff says, oh, okay, so I'm not crazy. Yeah, right? I know. Very often uh, those twin flame relationships can make us feel that way. Or maybe we're seeing it because we're supposed to really start to dissect our own energy, right? Consuela also says, I'm the runner. That's me. I've been the runner before. Most of my life, I was always the runner, right? And there was one relationship where I was the chaser, one in all of my time. And once that happened, there was a healing that happened within me, guys. Can you think back to that relationship, that one where you're like, I learned so much within that time frame. And guys, very often that relationship doesn't have to be of a long time frame. By the way, it might have been a year, 5 years. It could have been a whole, a long marriage. Who knows? But the intensity, guys, of that relationship very often also doesn't reflect in the time span of that relationship. You guys know what I'm talking about. How many of you understand that? Yeah, King. King Genocide says, you not cray. That's right, right? And Robin says, all we need is love. I agree. I love it. And so it's interesting. So watch that, guys. When you have that intensity come up, taking a moment, you guys, if you've listened to this podcast before, you will always hear me say, stop, take a breath in, exhale it out, and watch not just those relationships, but the world around you as if it is the mirror. And many of you who are begging for that twin flame to come into your life, if you start to go ahead and start to look at everything popping up in your existence as if it's showing you something because you need to learn something about it. If you can do that, you're going to be healing that energy within, the things that are coming up for you from your past, whatever, so that you can step into a peaceful relationship with that twin flame energy. Yes. A writer says, my soulmate has been abused to the point she doesn't know how to love right or be honest. Yes. So that happens so often. We, let's see. There's somebody says, we have one twin and many soulmates. I agree with you, my friend. I agree with you, my friend. And so we will have people come into our life. And I said this just a few podcasts ago, and they will kind of rough up our diamond, if you will, right? I believe that that's what those twin flames do for us, is they come through into our lives, and we, very often we would do anything for those relationships to work out. But what we really need to see them, we need to see them as something that's there to teach us the lessons we need to learn. And so again, we will be at moments triggered when there's an imbalance in those relationships. We will be triggered by some of those different things that pop up. We very often won't hear them in the way that we wish they were to hear us, but very often we're not hearing them as well, right? So very often what we're projecting onto them is actually, well, it's us projecting onto them rather than taking the breath in and wanting to witness the full connection, right? It's not, again, always an easy relationship. But for those of you, like there was somebody earlier that says, yes, I found my person, you found that twin flame. Very often what you'll find is you guys worked through such moments and maybe learn to even be able to communicate with each other. And very often when a twin flame relationship can go through that rough patch and find that balance on the other end, I believe that this is that lifetime that was supposed to happen, right? So that to me shows me that you guys have led many, many lifetimes together, and that finally in this lifetime, the two of you were to come together, right? I love it. And so again, it doesn't mean that all twin flame energies or relationships are difficult or toxic, but it can go that route. And so I always really preface one's own groundedness in our relationships, because those relationships, if not steady, can really throw us on our rocker emotionally and mentally even. So making sure that we're really taking beautiful self-care of ourselves and making sure that what do they say, put the mask on ourselves before we're really trying to do that for the world around us, right? I love it. Thank you, Nico. Nico says, Cortney speaking nothing but facts. Thank you, my friend. I love it. Ethan says, do you think that we are twin flames or soulmates or something else? Ethan, I think we're soulmates. I think we're soulmates. And so there are different variations, though. So you might, when thinking of your person, you might say, well, that sounds like me. The soulmate version, we're going to get to that in a minute, but you're going to find that's a little more fluid, right? That you're not always triggered by that person. So if you want to hear about those soulmates, stay with me, guys. We're going to get there in just a second. And so again, think of those relationships where you know that twin flame came through to really rough up that diamond that you are. It was difficult to move through. And again, if you were able to find peace and care and love in the end, I think that's amazing. Got it? Yes. And again, it's not always common. It doesn't mean it's not so, but it's not always common for that person to be that lifelong partner in the end. Yes. Australian says, rough patch. Haven't spoken to her in 2 years. It's unfortunately turned very toxic on her end. Wish it was different, but it has helped me grow. All I can do is wish the same for her. One love. Now that's it exactly. So let's think of it in terms of that splitting soul. So the point of the twin flame is to come into this existence and to find each other so that we can become one again. So they're learning that through each other, right? But really, it's about them finding that oneness is already within them. And I believe that we cannot really fully even find that outside of ourselves if we have not found that within ourselves. Got it? So in order for us to recognize the oneness of the twin flame, we must be able to recognize that we ourselves are worthy of love, that we can show that love to ourselves, and that we already also complete ourselves. Very often a twin flame believes that they are not whole until they find that other person, right? Now, I believe that we, again, have to step into that wholeness of that being, okay? I do believe that. What's really cool, and friends, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit subscribe to this beautiful channel. We are here every Wednesday, and we're diving into this topic tonight. But I go in deeper also in that VIP inner circle twice a month for an hour and a half, and we see each other. So if you are wanting to have beautiful topics like this, my inner circle is 11.11 a month. It is less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, right? And so we go into these conversations, and I can see you, we can have conversation about that. And there's a beautiful dialogue in this amazing community. So this month, February, was all self-love. So again, what do we want to make sure that we manifest inside of ourselves? And that's love, right? Love, so that we can connect to that fully in order to show it to everybody else around us. Okay. So this is the question I get all the time is, do I have a twin flame, or does everybody have a twin flame? And I believe that there are some people that actually do not. If you believe that longing is inside of you, you have it because, yes, there is a twin flame out there for you. Okay. Now, I will say that I was never one that really longed or felt like I was missing a twin flame or anything. I happen to be a twin actually in this life, but I was never longing energetically or emotionally or in the love area for a twin flame, if you will. Now, looking and feeling all of this information about that, I can definitely see that has come into my life, right? And very often what you'll find is in those relationships, there might be a massive growth through that. You might understand today that you would not be who you are if not for that relationship, right? Friends, it doesn't mean that was for nothing, by the way. Consuela says, that's me. That's right. And so I want you to understand that those relationships, again, even sometimes difficult, can be so good for us in order for us to find find out who we are, if you will. Okay. Yes. King Genocide says, I feel my missing energy. Yes. So if one feels that longing, maybe the question is, how do I find that person? I believe, and this is how I feel about this, I believe if we can fully step into our own energy, knowing that we're already full, put that, maybe set that intention for that person to show up for us, right? I teach many different ways of doing that energetically. You showing up to your highest and fullest, that means showing up physically, again, healing from those hurts, those pains, all of it, processing, and already looking at the mirror that's showing up around you in everyday life. Then I am telling you that very often those twin flames will find you because they're also doing that same thing, and they need you to roughen up their diamond just like you need them. Got it? And so they will find you. And so recognizing, again, how we recognize those twin flames can be because they have this, let's have the examples actually. You might have a really strong sense of connection when you meet them. They also, when you meet them, you'll have that feeling of like that you complete me. What is that, Tom Cruise? You might even have that feeling of, oh my gosh, I feel so complete when I'm with them, right? So when it's good, that's how that feels. There can be a very, very intense attraction, a deep connection there with them, and also intense emotions. Okay, you might fall really quickly for this person because there's this this awareness that you've also had great time with them before. Again, not understanding, like, the depth of connection might not equate to the time that you've spent with them, right? How many of you understand that you've met somebody and you have this deep connection with them and you're like, I've only known them for a few months, right? It can feel so bizarre when we have that energy. Teresa says, yes, yes. It's very interesting. It is. And so when it's not a healthy relationship, we can, it can sometimes bring up the toxic traits. It can bring out insecurities, that, and they might not be doing that on purpose, but that energy between you, again, you might not hear each other. One might speak and you might be triggered or defensive, right? We were seeing that in the comments earlier. But they will, sometimes those relationships can bring out insecurities and even doubts, right? It also, if you find yourself spinning and not able to communicate, and you notice that the other person's not quite on the same page with you, that's when you can start to notice that there's, again, that chaser and that runner in that relationship, right? Yes. And so you'll start to see that in those twin flame energies. I love it. Let's see. I used to love Chicago says, I'm married. I love my wife. I love my life. I know I have not met my twin flame, and it's cool. I don't want to because I know we both will get serious trouble in the world. I think, yeah, it's really interesting. I think that sometimes, are twin flame relationships always lovers, or are they always romantic relationships? I don't really believe that they always must be. Okay, we can meet people. We can meet really deep, have deep friendships where, again, really close, and all of a sudden it brings out a toxicity or something like that within us, but where we both really, really grow from maybe that disconnection or being able to witness the mirror around each other, right? So interesting. So there's that. And again, these relationships can lead, if done well, if we grow, if we heal and properly, they can be really beautiful connections and also very healing to those karmic connections from the past and those past lifetimes. Okay. And so in this lifetime, when we have that, it's such a beautiful and rare thing. I think it's amazing. And again, typically it means we've worked through really hard mountains, right? Valleys and, all the mountains and all the things to get into that space of connection. Got it. And so when both parties are in alignment, yes, it can feel like coming home even. Okay. Yes, those relationships can be really, really beautiful in that way if there's that peace between the two of them. Yeah. And so, let's see. All right. Let's go into soulmates, my friends. And so the soulmate connection, again, there's going to be some similarities within that soulmate energy and that twin flame energy as well. Now, the soulmate energy is not going to seem so bumpy. Okay. How many of you understand this? That moment when you meet that soulmate, and very often, and I believe that this can also be true for the twin flame, you may even have dreams that there's somebody coming around you. You understand that you might be dreaming of that connection, and you know that there's somebody right around the table for you, right? And so let's see here. Listen, I want to say real quick, I'm going to block somebody, my friend. Love you, mean it, friend. But if you were here, you were on this podcast for a reason, and we love you. It is a place of care and connection. And if you don't want to be here, there is an end button, or you get to go someplace else. So thank you, everybody who is sharing love and support in those comments. Anybody else, we will allow to go the other way. So thank you so much, everybody, for being kind and loving. Okay. And so again, soulmate connection, it's going to be someone who shares a strong connection with you. So just like that twin flame, you're going to have that immediate spark often. Okay. What I have found with a soulmate is the twin flame, to me, guys, tell me if this is how it has felt for you. The twin flame might feel like this, like it might feel intense. It might feel, what is the word? I want to use a word. Anyway, I can't find it. It'll find me if it's supposed to come through, but it feels very like exciting and so, up and down, okay, emotionally, and enticing and all of that, okay? Now, for me, a soulmate, yes, a roller coaster, and yes, intense for sure. Yes, yes. And so I believe that the soulmate connection, guys, feel the only way I I love to describe it is if you're sitting in the most beautiful um, chair, and you know that that chair has your back. There's no question about this chair falling. You sit in it. You don't take it for granted, by the way, as I say that, but you understand. Yeah, King Genocide says heartbeats accelerate. Yes, yes, that's right. And so, in with that soulmate connection, you might find this groundedness in such a way that brings such peace. And I had a dream before my soulmate came to me. And it was years later that I even realized, oh my gosh, that was him. But I had this dream. I've shared it here on the podcast before. And let me know if any of you have had a dream before they showed up. And so I want you, if you've had a dream that they are going to show up, I want you to take a breath, exhale it out, and hold no attachment to when, how, who, and where, right? Let it go and put it out there, okay? And I remember in this dream, I walked into this room, and there was this sofa or this double chair or something. I went and I sat down, and it was so, I had never felt so supported before. And in this support, I sat there and I kind of cornered myself in. I felt very comfortable. And I looked to the left and I saw this man's arm right here. And I thought, huh. And it looked like somebody had their arm around me. And I did this and I didn't see his face, but I felt him and just his body being next to me. And when I felt that, and I felt this groundedness of this chair holding me or having me, I took a big inhale, took a big exhale in that dream, and I almost like I kind of went into his nook of support, if that made sense. And I woke up, and I thought, wow, I feel like I'm going to meet somebody. I took a breath in, I let it go. I didn't hold on again to how, who, where, what. It didn't matter. I knew that that was an energy. If I was to dream it, if I was to feel it, I knew that it would be popping up in my life at the divine timing. And so we, friends, can have an awareness and a knowing without trying to strangle the information to death. So I want you to trust the way that you receive information. Dr. Strange, thank you, Dr. Strange, for always being here, my friends. I always love when I see those of you who come on every week, time and time again. It always means the world to me. And so I do see many different people coming on here, and I love it also when I see you regulars. So thank you, friends, again, for being here. It means the world. And so again, you guys really watch the way that you feel when these people kind of come in, and you might have an awareness and a knowing that it's creeping up for you before it falls into place. And so I want you again to take a breath in, release the attachment to outcome, and see how that falls into place for you. Okay. And so very often those soulmates, yes, they can be dear friends. Yes, a soulmate can be a friendship. But often I find that this soulmate energy, it can have different variations when it's a friend. Antonio says we are all soulmates. It's true. But when we find that romantic person, when we find that partner in that way, that soulmate is such a beautiful thing. Okay. And so when we're in that, yes, it can feel grounded, it can feel stable. And very often that soulmate connection will feel very calm, right? So watch, in those twin flame energies in those relationships, you might find that you're a little anxious. You have all the butterflies and the up and down of the energy. And again, I find that the soulmate connection is very grounded and something, unless you've ever felt it, it is one of the most beautiful things ever. Okay, I tell you. And so that soulmate energy will also, just like that twin flame, they will also complement your energy. You're going to find that their gifts really balance out your gifts. And in that soulmate energy, what you might have considered, it makes me smile as I think of it, what you might have considered a flaw in somebody else, right? When you might have considered, something that would have driven you crazy in another relationship or for somebody else, in the soulmate, it's okay, right? You can take a breath and exhale it out. You understand that you love them so fully that those little things or those used to be big things, maybe are little things now. And that together you guys can work towards anything, right? It's very, very cool when it happens. And again, it will feel typically like there is great ease in that relationship. It's not hard. It's not hard. And you'll also find that that person typically feels like your best friend, right? I love it. Yes, I love that. Lakai says, before I met my twin flame, I had a dream that a blonde haired man was coming toward me in a workplace environment. But in reality, my twin flame had red hair. Yeah, this is the thing. We don't have to hold on to all of the massive specifics, right? In mine, I couldn't see his face necessarily, but the energy of, right? And so when the energy presented itself, I knew that that was the person, not attaching it to the person when I met him. So guys, as we're talking about this, I want you to understand that I do believe, my opinion here, that when we're looking at relationships, I think it's really beautiful to keep a logical mindset, right? Even when we're talking soulmate or twin flame energy, I believe that we still want to make really smart choices, right, for ourselves. You're here having this human experience. And so if somebody is not quite healthy themselves, right, intertwining yourself with somebody who's really unhealthy mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever, even though they are a soulmate or let's call it twin flame, it might not be the time for you to step into relationship with them. So I want to say, make logical choices, make smart choices and boundaries with any of this, right? And when we're grounded and showing love to ourselves and being really good to us, we will typically be able to see those signs that we understand that some of those things are not going to be healthy for us, right? So, yeah, Australian says, don't get caught up in the rip, swim safely. I love that. That's right. Yes, that's exactly right. And so, again. So even I want to go back to the twin flame. When you leave that relationship, very often it will be so painful. Okay. How many of you have noticed that on leaving some of those twin flame relationships? It can feel so painful. It might even take you quite a while to get over that relationship. I've seen some who, clients who were married for 10 years and leaving that 10-year marriage or relationship was of course difficult, but not at all as difficult as leaving, say, a 9-month twin flame relationship. The depth of pain is something quite excruciating, right? How many of you understand that, right? Yes, Capricorn Sun says, because it was a lesson. That's right. Yes, it is because there was something in it that's actually going to sharpen you up in a way that was needed, right? And very often in those relationships, when that happens, what they're actually there to help us do is to step into ourselves more fully And so that we can be so full of that care, that oneness, and that love within ourselves that it actually spills over to the world around us, guys. Um, that's when people say, what's my purpose? Your purpose is to fall so fully in love with yourself that it speaks to yourself, your family, your friends, without even saying a word, that just by them watching your life and the goodness that you put within your own space, it speaks for itself, right? That's our purpose, is to share that love and that compassion. I love it. Yes, Teresa says, is there some form of familiarity? Yes, 100%. So in those relationships, let's go through the example. So when the soulmate energy, and some of these are the same as the twin flame, so I want you to hear that. So a soulmate is knowing, I always say this, knowing like you know, like you know. So that gut, internal, a barometer within yourself, right? You feel it and you know it from every ounce and core of your being, right? You're like this, there are no words to even articulate that awareness and that knowing, right? You might also even have memories of deja vu, even in those soulmate relationships, because those soulmates, of course, have also been with you in a previous life. And so now we're talking about one mate, one soulmate, right? And yes, there are soul families, soul connections with so many other people, right? Many of us have had those with best friends and close connections with a person that we met at work or whatever. When we meet somebody, we know we have that depth of connection. That's something sometimes only you know if you were like, if it was you. It's very hard to explain those deep, beautiful connections, right? And so again, loving their flaws, I mentioned that earlier. And those soulmate connections can also be really intense, right? They can be very loving, very intense. And often what I find in a soulmate is that they can hear us in a way that nobody else ever was able to. You'll also feel more loved and protected in a way that you weren't ever even shown was a possibility. How many of you here have had that experience? Yeah, it's there. It's so interesting. It's so beautiful when we find that. And so also that connection, you might find that there's a telepathic connection between the two of you. You might almost finish each other's words. If you're thinking of something, somebody might come home and actually be kind of thinking the same thing and say it out loud. And you might notice that that's a connection that the two of you have, right? I said secure, protected, deep soul connection. And even this, guys, an eye-to-eye connection like you've never been able to have with anybody else. How many people understand what I'm saying when I say that? Many, especially those of us who used to be runners, my friends. I want to hear, if you're here with me, how many of you understand that just in a relationship, that eye to eye, soul looking at each other can be so vulnerable that we've not been able, look, I see the hands, let me see your hands coming up. I see lots of hands, lots of emojis. It can be so deep and so vulnerable, right? That we're not able to have that with just anybody, right? But that soulmate, you're able to actually have that, which is a depth and a connection and a love, I'm telling you, like no other, right? And so again, those healed twin flames can also have that exact connection as well. Okay. That twin flame might have gone through, again, quite the journey, the up and down of that ride to get there. But that soulmate, and they can come into that groundedness, right? And that connection. Yeah, twin flame is your soul in another body. That's right, Miller, it is. That's right, my friend. Yeah, and Stuart says, yes, the eye contact is mesmerizing. Yeah, and not many can do that with just anybody, right? Yes. Australian says, she said my gaze always felt like I was looking directly into her soul. Now, I'm a firm believer that we can take that, right? When we're able, I want to do this as I talk about it. We're able to allow that depth of connection when we've fully gone to our own depth of connection, right? So how in the world can we allow somebody in, right, if we have not able to actually access that part of ourself too? That's why it's really important in this existence, in this life of ours, to really do that work of diving. I believe that's the soul work, right? The soul work of knowing who we are, falling in love with ourselves so fully, which again, guys, it can be very difficult. It's not an easy thing for us to do, right? And so the really cool thing is that often when we're not looking for these relationships, that's when they pop into place. Okay. So it's very often when the soulmate, I believe, when the soulmate pops in, that's when typically we're not looking. I would say the twin flame can pop in, and again, those are the ones that will kind of rough up the energy of who we are, right? And rough it up with the intention that we're going to move into that diamond energy, our highest form of connection and energy, right? Um, but that energy of that soulmate is going to be somebody who comes in where we've actually fallen in such love with ourselves that we truly are not looking for anybody else to complete us, because we have that wholeness within already. It's because we have already done that work to feel really solid and grounded in our own right, right? We might set that intention that love would be beautiful, but that's not going to define me necessarily. So I find that often that soulmate energy comes when we've already arrived to that own connection. Yes. Miller Time says shadow work, integrating your male and female energies in harmonious union. Yes, that's right. It's so true. I love it. And so also, this is a really cool thing too, is many people will be able to witness these connections, okay, outside of ourselves. So you'll have many friends. Um, if it's the healed twin flame energy and also that soulmate energy, you're going to have people who witness your coming together, and there's going to be a glowing from within. There's going to be something that feels that they're actually watching with those mesmerized eyes saying, oh my gosh, I want what they have, right? We've all seen those couples when we're like, what? Oh my, you see them, you feel them, you're in their energy, and you know that it's authentic, right? There's no trying to show up. They just simply show up for each other. There's no trying to make sure it's all pretty and good on the outside. No, that's authentically what that is on the inside. There's no effort. It does not look like it's difficult. It's just there's such ease there. And what you'll find in these healthy relationships like that too is you'll find that, again, most around are able to see that reflection. Not because they're telling everybody always how great it is, but because they can see also how much both of their lives have benefited by them coming together, right? How you guys have seen those relationships when they find each other, and you see that one supports the other and the other supports this other one, and they both grow in tandem together, right? That's when you know that it's a soulful connection that is of the highest good and a healed manner. So that's why I encourage you. It doesn't happen when we find them. It actually happens for us separately. So, how in the world can we expect an energy to show up for us if we haven't yet done the work to become the kind of person that we're wanting to attract, right? And so, if we can, instead of making it about needing and wanting somebody else to come through and fulfill us, how about us falling in love with ourselves in the way that we've so been trained to look at it as far as it's got to be somebody else that makes me happy. No. What's it going to be inside of you that does that work for you? Like Kai says, shadow work. That's right, my friend. Yes. Paulina says, Courtney, how do we know if it's a twin flame and then a soulmate? So the twin flame will typically be up and down. They're showing you reflections of yourself that sometimes feel like this. Lots of work, right? And it doesn't mean that soulmates don't either at moments, but the twin flames are more, they're roughing you up. That you're roughing them up, they're roughing you up. You guys might be triggered by each other. You might move through really difficult moments and situations. And then again, often those twin flames, not all of them, but often those twin flames don't find or they don't remain together for the long run. Our intention is that they can, but the soulmate connection is going to feel more fluid. That's how that feels to me, right? Yeah. Karmic, you're right. You're right. Tarot Chick says karmic soulmates rough you up too. It's true. That's true. And those karmic relationships can come from many different people as well. It's not just always that partner by your side, for sure. Thank you, karmic. I feel that. Yeah. Let's see. And so when we are able to witness, right, that energy in the twin flame, what's really beautiful is when we are healing through that, very often we come out of that realizing how strong we are. I want to go back actually into when other people are witnessing this energy. They witness us move through these relationships and they find that both parties are supported by the other. And it definitely looks like team effort. And it definitely is team effort, right, my friends? And so you'll be able to witness this. And very often, some of those difficult relationships are actually preparing us for the relationship that comes with this ease. Okay. Many of us have been through those relationships. Again, I'm going to say this one more time. That if it had not been for those twin flames, we would not have been the person that we were today, which means it was all so beautifully meant to be in this lifetime, right? We're supposed to go through all of that so that we can see what needs to be healed. We can work things out. We're not always the perfect partner as well. So when we get to see that mirrored back to us and see how it is that we move through situations, we handle situations, and we learn from those situations, when we're able to do that and move through those relationships in a really healthy manner, and sometimes it doesn't feel so healthy, but when they come to an end and we're able to reflect back and see those lessons learned, guys, we're doing the work. We're doing the work I believe we're supposed to here, right? Okay. So what we find inside of ourselves is exactly, actually, I believe, what we're going to find in that relationship outside of ourselves. Okay. And so that is, again, why it is so important for you guys to be doing your own self-work. This is not an easy human experience we're having here, but it's a beautiful, worthwhile, worthwhile experience when we find, again, our soul people, our soul partners. Those twin flames help us grow on this path. And again, if we are able, and if it's so beautiful enough that we can work through those hard times together to get to find that yin and yang, what a beautiful connection. But again, those soulmates, if the soulmate timeline is meant for you this lifetime, you might not even experience that twin flame energy in this lifetime, and you might move straight through to that soulmate energy. Some of us have had both. How many of you think and know that you have had both in this lifetime? I would say I'm one of them. Yes. And I would tell you that often we would never, I'm pointing, so guides and angels are saying, really listen. I understand this so beautifully. I would never appreciate and value the relationship I was in if not through some of that toxicity of that twin flame energy. Yes, I see all the me's. Yep, that's right. It's so interesting to watch this human experience we're having. Yes. Miller says we're here to experience heaven on earth. That's right. If we can find that energy within us, it's pretty beautiful, right? Yes. And so healing ourselves, the self-love is absolutely a must. And it's something we all desperately need in order to my thought of that is, let's do that now. Let's do it in this lifetime. Let's heal from all of the things and rise to our highest frequency so we don't have to come back and learn these lessons again, my friends, right? It's a beautiful thing. Now, some of you, I want to hear this. How many of you struggle with that self-love and you're always looking for it outside of yourself? Give me an emoji. Give me a hand if that's you. If it is, that self-love, I'm telling you, that has been our topic this month in my VIP Inner Circle. It's a group that we meet. If you think this is great, that VIP Inner Circle, I can see you, you see me, and we have conversations. It's a beautiful connection with a group people from all across the world. And it's a pretty intimate group right now. And so I really encourage you, if you are somebody who's really wanting to step into your spiritual path and just have deeper conversations like this one, on beautiful random topics of spirituality and connection, go check out my VIP Inner Circle. It is less than a coffee a month, guys. And you get all of the archived 2.5 years of videos. from before. And there's so much there on development, spiritual development and connection. And when we're able to go in deep in just this hour that we have together, imagine an hour and a half twice a month where we have that dialogue together. It's really, really cool. How many people have questions? I'll answer some questions while we still have what? We've got some time here. So let's answer some of those questions that you have about those twin flames and about that soulmate connection, okay? It's pretty interesting, guys. I want to share a quick something and I'll answer your questions. I had a friend who in junior high and high school, he was such a dear, dear friend and dear soul. And he was always so kind and loving. And I definitely had my arm up. His name was David. And in my mind, I was like, I'm going to marry David. I love David. He's so sweet, but I would almost never give him the time of day because he was so sweet. He was so kind. And I wasn't able to allow anybody in yet. I had been through loss. My mother had passed. I had lots of, trauma from losses and things like that. And there roses every birthday, every Valentine's Day, the most beautiful cards, all of these things. He was showing me what love looked like. And I really was so uncomfortable with it. I kept him always at arm's length. And he would come over and we'd go on dates, but that was as far as it ever went. I kept him at bay. And it was the summer after my senior year, and he was killed in a car wreck. And it took me years to heal from that loss. But what I learned from that is to really speak up clearly about my heart. Once I was able to heal and allow myself to even access my own emotion, to put down those walls, to keep people out, to become vulnerable, allow myself to be seen, only then was I able to allow true connection to come in. And he was a beautiful example of what friendship and companionship and somebody being thoughtful and kind looks like. And so, guys, we can have many people come into our life and show us these things. And it doesn't mean that maybe we were always the most kind, or we might not have been the good one in terms of that relationship, but that was a version of yourself that you needed to witness. I needed to witness, look at, heal, mourn, love, and show gratitude and grace for the person I was then and the person I was along the way. So think back to your moments and your relationships and the way that you were learning, okay? Think back to that. Yes. Magic Aza or Aza says we all have about 32 our soul family. So I've heard through channeled messages. I do believe that we do have many people that come through that help rough us up in a way. But when you have that connection, you'll know. And I do believe I've had one soulmate connection. I know that's the relationship I'm in now, because there's a groundedness and a knowing when you're in that in a way like you've never known before. And so some of us might not have experienced that until you do. And so it's very, very interesting. But I do agree. I think friendships, teachers, relationships, all of that. And very often, again, these people are our soul family, tribe family that travels with us through lifetimes, by the way. So we learn from them. They learn from us constantly. Yes. I love it. Tarot Chick says a group like this is good for those new to this, because if you are a twin and experience all of the synchronicities, it can make you feel crazy. It is so true. So I believe, thank you for that, Tarot Chick. So that is why I love, I'm a skeptic with many different things. I love groundedness. I like facts. I like proof. I'm just like, many other individuals. And so I think if you are emotionally unwell, going into the unraveling of all of this, even your own gifts and abilities can send you sometimes into an unhealthy connection. Or if you become obsessed with it, that's not great. We've got to be able to learn, take a breath, allow it to move through, and come back to this human experience that we're living. So thank you, my friend, for that. I love it. Yes. Derek Jackson says, I'm dating someone right now. Will there be signs if they are your soulmate? Thank you. Yes. So some of those signs, I'll go over them again, my friend, is like a deep inner gut knowing, right? A knowing without knowing how you know, but knowing that there's a beautiful connection here. You also, for me, the way that I describe it is a feeling like knowing that there's a groundedness within you when you're in their presence. It doesn't feel like this um, up and down excitement, or I want to call it toxicity today, but I wouldn't have called it that back then. Butterflies always. Sometimes that is not true love, I don't believe. I think that we can be excited about somebody and know that, but often when it's that soulmate, there is, excuse me, a peace and such a groundedness that I believe words can't even explain. So it's very cool. And so an intensity there, and you also feeling secure and protected by them, right? Feeling very safe within their energy and feeling like there's such trust. Okay. Now, listen, my friends, we're all human beings. People mess up, people make poor choices, but if they come to you and they're working things out in a really healthy way, you giving somebody grace and space, because we're all in this human experience together. And I do believe if we're seeing it outside of ourselves, it's meant, we're seeing it because there's got to be something in it for us, right? We don't always have to like that, but I do feel that that's true. Yes. Let's see here. More questions. Rebecca says, my man is blocking his emotions and ignoring his feelings, avoiding me. We are together and live together, but he is doing everything and anything to avoid me and any kind of cuddling. And they haven't been intimate either. So Rebecca, oh, my friend, how many of you have been through that experience before, right? Thank you, Impress. My friend, thank you so much. That means the world to me. Doing the podcast, there's always time. There's always family that's waiting on us. I love showing up for you guys. And so Impressed, I appreciate that love and support there. Thank you so much, my friend. So when we have relationships like Rebecca, how many of you guys have been in those relationships where you're putting it all in, you're trying to get them to communicate, you're trying to get them to connect with you, all of that. And it just feels like we're hitting our head on, the wall. I believe, Rebecca, communicating very often, some don't like that. They might see it as confrontation, but if we say it directly, maybe even, I'm always careful with my tone. I say it how I mean it, but I always say very clear, direct, and to the point. So I know that for my highest good, my heart and my soul, that I have said it all out loud. Okay. And so, Rebecca, if you can understand that you're putting everything into this, I think that's a beautiful thing. Very often when we're afraid to be seen, we're afraid to be vulnerable, we will match energy out of being, either we don't want to be vulnerable because they're not being vulnerable, right? And so we become defensive in that relationship. But I believe if we're actually working from our highest frequency, our highest of good, we would want somebody to give us grace and space and patience, right? And if we can allow others that grace, love, space, and patience, but clear, direct communication. And that doesn't mean put up with it forever, but it means saying, this is what I need from you. And being very clear with what that is. And if that were to go on forever, I've had that happen in my own life, having to say, okay, if this happens, X is where I'm going to be, like you having to lay it all out there and always setting that intention out there that you see and you visualize the two of you coming back together. But it's hard to tango alone, my friend, right? And so you've got to have a partner that's willing to do this with you, right? And so I would say show grace and space and love in the way that you would want it shown to you. But make sure that you're speaking up with your clear boundaries and you're telling him what it is that you need. And in time, you're going to be able to see that those words of his, hopefully if you get them, and his actions will match up. And so Rebecca says, thank you. It's been going on for almost 2 years. Yes, Rebecca. So I believe that you're asking that because there's decisions around the corner for you, right? And so this is what I did through that time, is I made sure that I was not expecting of him anything I wasn't already putting in. I was in therapy. I was doing what I love, doing my work, showing up for myself. You putting that self-care and self-love into you is what is needed. We can pray and hope that those twin flames show up. It's not for us. We don't want them to show up for us. We want them to show up so fully for themselves so that we can then what? In that twin flame energy become whole, right? But that can't happen unless we're doing the same thing, right? Obi-Wan says, spoil yourselves. That's right. So any of those things, if you guys are Forbidden Knowledge followers, which many of you are, you will hear Elizabeth talk about many of those healing devices. And that's actually how she became a client of mine so many years ago, over 10 years ago now, is that neurofeedback's a beautiful thing. Therapy, it's when you find a good one, it's a beautiful thing. TRE, it's a beautiful thing. Doing your own meditation, connecting to your own highest self, beautiful thing. Faith, knowing, and you setting those beautiful boundaries with the world around you. When you do that and you start to love yourself in a way that you would expect somebody else to show up and love you, when you're becoming that, what's going to happen is that relationship, Rebecca, and everybody else who this relates to, those relationships it's not going to be in alignment anymore. So those will usually get more difficult and draw more reason for us to be clear, again, direct, and to the point. And while it still is so utterly painful, it will be more painful for you to not take care of you. You understand? And so when we are so beautifully taking care of us, that's when those twin flame energies either rise to the occasion and that becomes a beautiful partnership, like some of my friends here earlier, or those relationships will move through our lives. And in time, when we're there owning our own energy, that soulmate will arise in time, again, with no attachment to the time frame. It's true. Consuela says, I look forward to all the positive energy, one place and time on Wednesdays. Thank you. Thank you, Consuela, my friend. Yes, I love it. No one Crystal Lee says, you can tell what I'm feeling by my facial expression. Me too, my friend, ditto. I have a wedding planner right now. And I told her after so long, this is not related to what we're talking about tonight, but I said that to her today. We were in a meeting with a florist, and over a certain amount of time, I start to like phase out, and I'm like, okay, I gotta go. The meeting's gone too long. And so I said, I can't hide my facial expressions. What you see is the truth of what it is. And so listen, it just means we're authentic. Let's call it that, my friend. We're authentic. June 14th, 2025, my friends, to Mr. Ethan. So we are getting married. I'm so excited. We got engaged in Florida at the Forbidden Knowledge New Year's Eve party, which was the celebration of Billy and Elizabeth, their wedding, them becoming united. And so it was such a beautiful moment. And so anyway, guys, listen, I want to tell you one more time. For those of you who want to dive in even deeper than what we were able to tonight, go check out my VIP Inner Circle. The link is under this description in this video. And it is a beautiful place for us to connect worldwide with and it's still an intimate, beautiful group. And we dive in. I can see you. You can see me. We have dialogue. You get to articulate your questions to me rather than just typing them. It is such a sweet space. And you get access to over 2.5 years of awesome learning and teachings. We have thought leaders from around the world. Elizabeth has come on and taught and led us before. We've had Sandy Sue come on. She's a feng shui master. We've had Dr. Rose Moten come on and speak. And it is such a cool group and connection and way to bond with other people that are moving through often the same things that you guys are, wanting to connect to those guides and angels, your highest self, and just simply grow and find support that often we're not able to find that support in our families and our friendships, right? Many of you have been going through an awakening and you don't have many people to depend on or to have those in-depth conversations with somebody who can hold space for you. That group is it. That group is it. So come join me there. Again, it's $11.11 a month. So less than your coffee, my friends. Listen, do me a favor. please go hit up my personal YouTube page. It's Cosmically Connected with Cortney Kane Sides. We have lives there and lots of videos over there too, lots of weekly intentions and monthly intentions, I should say. And I would love if you would follow and have more connection over there as well. So guys, thank you so much, my friends. Thank you. And we will see you next Wednesday, okay? All right, listen, keep looking within those twin flames, yes, you've experienced, or they are coming into your existence, and also those soulmates are around the corner. Fall in love with you. Fall in love with you. That's your homework. Bye, friends.